It's time to live yellow. Alors, on fait quoi aujourd'hui? We live yellow.
Au long de la première partie, tu n'as pas manqué également de dire, avec des exemples, comment, au niveau de MTN, vous essayez de construire cela. Mais de façon plus focus, je souhaiterais savoir comment, aujourd'hui, tu établis des relations solides avec tes collaborateurs au niveau de MTN en tant que leader empathique. Et puis, quels sont les défis que tu rencontres, justement, pour pouvoir, je dirais, instaurer un style de leadership empathique, sachant que c'est plus facile d'être un leader autoritaire, directif, c'est plus facile que empathique. Et comment, lorsque ces défis-là se présentent, tu arrives à les surmonter?
Okay. No, thank you for the question. I think it really starts with the vision of the business. So if I think about my own journey here with MTN Benin, I joined the business about 4 years ago. And the first thing that I realized was that it was very important for me to share the vision for the business. It was very clear that we needed to transform and we needed to become a much more digital player in the ecosystem, which is the journey we're on now. But people, including myself, people have been so used to working in a certain way. We're a telecommunications company now. We're trying to become a digital-led, solutions company. And so it was very important to share the vision. And I spent a lot of time on that. I went to every department. I had coffee meetings. I spoke to people in their departments. I walked around the building just to get to know the employees and also to share that vision and to hear their feedback, because I found, similar to what you were saying, I found that people were much more willing to talk in smaller groups than in big groups. And so it was very much around me trying to figure out the best way to communicate with the employees. The other thing I was doing, I haven't done it recently, but I was doing before, was once a week, I would call different people in the company. So my Aurora, my assistant, and I would sit down at lunchtime, and we had a list of every employee in the company, and we just went through the list. And we would just call randomly people in different departments, different levels. Bonjour, c'est qui? C'est Uche. Quoi? Comment tu vas? And just asking people how they were feeling, how is work going, how's their family. And many times they were saying to me, like, this is the first time a CEO has ever called me. I've worked here for 15 years. I've worked here for 10 years. So it made me realize how important connecting with the employees were. And it didn't mean that on Tuesday in the performance meeting, I wasn't tough, but at least they felt I was trying to connect with them. And so these were a few of the things that we were doing to really showcase, look, I'm here. We also communicated all the time that I have an open door policy. Like, people can come whenever they want to come and talk to me about anything they want to talk about. And a lot of times, I think people didn't believe that. I think people didn't believe that I really had an open door policy. But when they would come to talk to me, they're like, wow. So this has been a good conversation. I said, yeah, you're free to have this conversation anytime you want, And it's taken 4 years for people to really believe that. So to your point, having to communicate all the time, your vision, your style, your expectations, making it clear that we're in this journey together, that they're not alone, that they should feel free to speak up. So this is something I'm very passionate about, that I want people to feel free. Like, even if you are a driver or a cleaner or a GM, that you have the right to voice your opinion, because if you don't have that, if people don't feel free in the organization, as you said earlier, people hide things. People hide things and you don't know. And then once it happens, it's too late. I want people to understand that they can make mistakes. I might be upset. I might be upset about the mistake, but we will move forward. It's not the end of the world, you know. They have to be very comfortable to fail. And as I like the way that you made a distinction between a mistake and something that is much more serious, you know, that creates harm to the business. So it's that, and it's repeating that, you know, people can make mistakes. I have an open door policy. Speak up. Don't be afraid to give me your opinion. I want to hear from you. I don't care whether you're a level 1 or a level 4. We all have the same rights in the business, you know? And what I try to explain to people is, outside of your family, this is where you spend most of your time. So imagine you spend 10 hours a day here. Imagine if your 10 hours here is miserable. It's not a sustainable situation. And it also means the business will not do well. So we have to find ways for people to feel supported, and to give us their best. And the only way they can give us their best is to create a good environment for them. Good environment where people feel that giving their best is in their interest and in the interest of the business. Because at the end of the day, as I always say to people, we have something here called Yellowversary, where we celebrate people in the month that they joined the business. Last month, we had a person in the group who had been with the business 24 years. So 24 years, joined in March 24 years ago. And we had some people in the business who had just joined a year ago. So the youngest and the oldest. And it was really amazing to them. And I was saying to them that I'm so grateful to be able to celebrate them, because at the end of the day, people have choices and they choose to be with MTN. There's nobody forcing anyone to be at MTN. Like, people make a choice to work here, and it's important for us at MTN to make it worth their while to be here every single day. And we're not perfect. We don't always get it right. But between myself and HR and the executive team, it is our job. It is our job to constantly find ways to make the experience of our employees better. That's my belief. It starts with them. It ends with them. You have happy employees, you will have happy clients. You have happy clients, you will make your revenue numbers. You have unhappy clients, you can't, you know. So first and foremost, are your employees feeling passionate about the business? Are they feeling passionate about the work they're doing? Are they happy to come to work in the morning? Because I tell my team, like, in the morning, I wake up like, yes, I'm going to work. I don't get up in the morning like, oh.
Encore ceci.
Exactement, encore. Wait, so how do we, as an empathetic leader, your job is to make sure people feel that way in the business, that they're excited about coming here. They want to do their best work. They want to give their best to the company. And what you said earlier is really important. It's not about salary. it's not just about salary. Like we can pay, I can pay people a really high salary, but if we don't treat them well, if we're not clear about expectations, if we don't have a common vision, at some point in time, that salary, they could be excited about the salary maybe the first 2 times they see the check. But after that, they're going to be, this place.
C'est lourd.
Oui. Donc, that's what I think. I think, we try to always find every year, my HR team knows, that every year we're going to try and find new ways to really engage our employees, to show that we are empathetic and that we care about them. Another thing that I'm really trying to push for is that I think part of being empathetic as a leader is really understanding your employees. And I think we cannot do that without data. And so one of the things I'm really pushing for now is like, how do we analyze the needs of the employees so we can better serve them, as well. So there are lots of things that we're doing. Yellow anniversary. We celebrate birthdays. As well. We have Africa Day coming up. We're going to have a big competition around that. But it's always in the interest of how do we engage? Sharing the strategy. Once a month, we have something called the CEO Talk, where we talk to everyone in the entire business. We share with them the performance of the business. We share with them, things that are happening in the business, and we speak really openly. And the last thing is, as we said earlier, showing vulnerability is really important as an empathetic leader. One of the things I've struggled with the most since I've come here is speaking French, and yeah, it has been really tough for me to do, but I've been really open with my employees about my journey, I have French classes, 3 times a week. And I practice. When I first came here, I would not speak any French because I was really afraid of making mistakes. I said, I'm not saying anything. And now I speak my bad French in public with my employees. And what I think it does for the employees is to show that I'm not afraid to make mistakes, but also shows that I'm trying, that this is something difficult for me. I'm struggling with it, but I'm trying. So I hope it shows them that I'm a bit vulnerable, that I'm not perfect as a leader, that even I have my own difficulty. And I think when we're able to show that, it gives them permission to also to show us that they make mistakes as well. Yeah. But I'm really passionate. I'm really passionate about it. In terms of challenges, I think the biggest challenge for me, at least when I first started, was about culture. I'm Nigerian. I'm American. We are super. I think the Nigerian American combination is direct, 100%. And so, my style can be very abrupt, but I mean that it doesn't, when I tend to give feedback immediately. Like I don't wait to talk to you quiet. I'll just be like, et pour moi, c'est fini.
C'est ça.
Mais pour la personne,
c'est pas fini. Ça commence. C'est ça.
I've tried to learn. I won't say I'm perfect. I've tried to learn how to change that a little bit. The other thing is my emails. If someone sent me an email that I wasn't happy with, for example, I would reply with a question mark, meaning, what is this? Mais pour cette personne, oh my gosh, qu'est-ce qui se passe? What does this mean? Is she upset? for me, I didn't understand that this is what they're thinking. For me, I'm just asking, what does this mean? For them, it is,
Je viens d'ouvrir des problèmes.
Exactly. So again, just trying to shift my behavior a little bit, to be more understanding of the culture and the way people understand things, you know. I would say has been one of the bigger challenges. It's much better now, I think, but in the beginning it was extremely, extremely difficult. I didn't understand, and I'm sure they didn't understand me either. I think after a few years, we understand each other better. I think the other thing is trust. You know, I think people weren't sure what kind of leader I would be. And I've tried to show that, we're together. We're in this together, good and bad. When it's good, we're together. When it's bad, we're together. It's not when it's bad, it's you and it's me. It's not separate. We are together. And that no matter what, like, I will always protect the organization. I am extremely passionate about the organization and its people. And I will always protect the organization. Now, we may fight later, but first and foremost, my job is to protect. And finally,
le parapluie.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The umbrella. And finally, I do try to take my time to explain things that are difficult. You know, when I came, we made a decision to bring in, young people into the organization. And a lot of people were wondering, why we were doing that, you know, and my thinking around it was, you know, these kids have grown up with this, right? I had to learn how to use a computer. These people have been using a computer, or they've been online from day one. So they come with different skills and they look at things very differently. And to serve the population, we need that. And I had to explain that. Now, it was interesting for me because strategically we knew it was the right thing to do, but people didn't understand that. And initially I was like, why don't they understand, you know? But taking the time to explain it, and I think now people understand exactly why we've been doing that. So to your point about being humble as a leader and not saying, well, I don't have to explain myself, you know, explaining, talking, communicating, explaining again. That's how we've managed to overcome it. And as I said, still very much work in progress, you know, not finished, but work in progress. Yeah.
Alors, je note 2 points. L'écoute. Je note que tu veilles en tant que leader empathique à écouter. Et c'est très positif, l'initiative d'appeler les gens.
Oui.
Parce que la surprise se disent, mais le DG a de l'intérêt pour moi. Et donc, en tant que personne, je suis pas juste un pion sur l'échiquier. Je suis une entité qui compte. Par rapport à ton expérience d'appeler les gens, je pense que c'est important. Pourquoi? Parce que, déjà, c'était guerrier. Tu as besoin de savoir comment ils vont. Et ça te permet d'interagir avec eux. Et donc, moi, j'avais pas pensé à ça, mais je pense que, à défaut de pouvoir tous les matins dire bonjour aux gens, appelez. Appelez. C'est vrai que MTN, vous devez avoir beaucoup de gens. Je pense que c'est une bonne alternative, au moins, de pouvoir interagir avec les gens, de pouvoir parler avec les gens. Mais en tout cas, je note l'écoute. Écouter les gens, parce que c'est eux qui font le business. Et tu l'as dit, lorsqu'ils sont heureux, ils délivrent de la performance. Et quand ils délivrent de la performance, les objectifs sur lesquels toi, en tant que MD, tu t'es engagé, tu les atteins. Et puis, la communication. J'ai noté ça. Ne pas se fatiguer
Cannot be tired, no?
de
talking.
partager,
Oui.
de partager avec les gens. Mais je dirais que c'est un défi, je suis d'accord avec toi, de chaque jour. On est constamment en progrès. Parfois, ça se passe, puis parfois. Le fait d'accueillir les gens, je notais ça comme point positif. Lorsque les gens arrivent dans le milieu de l'entreprise, ça, c'est plus impactant de dire, mais ça fait 4 jours, ça fait 4 ans que tu es avec nous, on te reconnaisse là. Ça fait 20 ans qu'on te reconnaisse là. Ça fait 1 an qu'on te reconnaisse là. Je pense que c'est un bel outil également pour que le collaborateur se rappelle, se souvienne que je fais partie d'une famille et notre nom de famille, chez toi c'est MTN, chez moi c'est NCIA. La famille professionnelle.
Oui.
Et je retiens le fait de ne pas attendre le 1er mai. Parce que souvent, nous, c'est ce qu'on fait, on attend le 1er mai. Ça fait 10 ans, ça fait 24 ans. Mais là, on le fait en
One
groupe.
together. Ah, okay.
Et alors que c'est important pour l'individu de dire, je fais partie d'un tout, mais je ressors du tout. Parce qu'on est aussi dans un monde aujourd'hui où le moi a pris beaucoup d'importance. Et donc, l'individu est content d'être dans l'équipe, mais il veut aussi qu'on le célèbre. Lui, je le note et je vais travailler là-dessus. Je pense que je vais l'intégrer, ça. Je pense que ça peut apporter un plus dans la valorisation. Et peut-être en complément, je me dirais, peut-être que oui, on fait la fête, mais le jour anniversaire, peut-être que un mot du DG, un petit mot du DG, ah monsieur, ça fait 12 mois, 1 an que vous êtes avec nous, ça fait 3 ans. Merci pour vos efforts.
Oui.
Merci, avec peut-être un petit chocolat,
Exact.
un petit truc, juste pour lui.
Oui.
Et peut-être ce jour-là, il passe le DG, lui dit bonjour. Voilà.
Oui.
Non, c'est très bien. C'est très bien. Les gens ont besoin de savoir que ils font partie d'un ensemble, mais aussi ils existent.
Each person has their own.
Voilà.
Yeah.
Tout à l'heure, j'avais dit que lors d'une revue commerciale, je m'étais fâché quand on parlait de la force et de la faiblesse, et que se fâcher lorsqu'on est leader, c'est une faiblesse. On ne doit pas se fâcher, on doit toujours être à l'écoute et avoir faire preuve de tempérance pour pouvoir parler avec les gens. Et j'ai montré, on va dire, un côté négatif, n'est-ce pas? Je dis un manquement de ce qu'il ne faut pas pour être un leader empathique. Mais là, je te demanderais plutôt de nous donner un exemple d'une approche empathique, donc un côté positif du leader empathique que tu as eu à démontrer et qui a permis d'avoir un impact sur le collaborateur ou les collaborateurs pour que les objectifs soient atteints.
Good question. So I think I'm going to speak about it more generally. I think within the last few years, one thing that I can say about the organization is that people feel much more empowered to speak up. And I think that allows us to be much more innovative. What do I mean? Today, one of our most important products this year is MTN Hype, which has been produced by a former graduate executive, right, Evans, who's one of the youngest people in our organization. I don't think that could have happened 4 years ago. I don't think we would have put a product of that magnitude into the hands of a 22-year-old. We wouldn't have. It's impossible. We wouldn't have. We would have thought that this is the role of a person who is 40, so we've changed the way, that we work because we're much more open as an organization in terms of who can make a contribution. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we've moved away from this thing around hierarchy. In fact, this idea of a podcast was done by graduate executives. These are 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds. There's no way this would have happened 4 years ago. And so the thing around empathy, which is in my case, which is around ensuring that everyone has a voice in the organization, everyone has an ability to contribute, means that people are not afraid and that their ideas can be heard. These kids came to present to me their plans around Yellow Values and the podcast. And I had nothing to add to their presentation. They presented and I was like, oh, I have nothing to say. This is perfect, you know? And I think that's the change. I think that's the change. If this had been a couple of years ago, I don't think they would have been empowered to do it. I don't think we would have wanted to hear from them because we would have said, these are, you know, some young people. We don't want to hear their ideas. And I don't know if the business would have supported it. I think today they were there with their managers and their managers said nothing. It was just these two kids who were, you know, doing this presentation. Same thing for CEO of the Day. So we have a lot of initiatives in the business now, where people feel much more empowered because of this leadership style that is now being pushed within the business. And the fact that we're shifting the culture away from a hierarchy to everyone has a role. Everyone can speak. No matter what your level is, there's an opportunity for you. So I think that's the example I want to give. And I'm very proud of it because we were in the past an organization that was, you know, your level unlocked opportunity, right? So depending on who you were in the organization, depending on your level, would determine what you did in the organization. And today we believe ideas can come from anyone. It can come from anywhere. And that for me is a direct result of the executive team and myself shifting the style of management. Last year, the management team and myself, we went through a lot of training. And it was very much around how do you lead in times like this where empathy is required? How can you be a much more empathetic leader? And I'm so proud of them, right? Because they did a year of training last year. They're still doing some training, but last year there was a lot of training for the executive team because, you know, the point was we have to change the way we lead. We can't continue to lead as we did before. I cannot be the same leader I was 5 years ago because culture has changed. The world has changed. We've been through COVID. The expectations are extremely different. So how do we lead now? How can we be more empathetic? How can we be more, you know, how can we connect more with our employees? And last year, from January to December, we had different programs, just emphasizing this point, like about changing our style of leadership, changing the way we communicate, rethinking strategy. And I think this year we're beginning to see the benefits of that in the types of initiatives that are being introduced, whether it's commercial, whether it's HR, across the business. The way that people are thinking, the way they come up with ideas, the way they create is completely different. And for me, this means that we are really in a good place from a journey perspective of our transformation. That next year, we're going to be a much stronger organization, and the year after that, much stronger, because we have shifted the mindset of the organization. But it only happened because as a group, the executive team and the senior managers had to go through that training of becoming much more empathetic as leaders, because empathy unlocks performance. I believe this. Empathy unlocks performance. People feel that you have their back, they will give you their best. They feel safe, they will give you their best. They feel that you're listening to them, they will give you their best. That doesn't mean that every day is a party. No. But people know that this is an organization that we're on a journey together and we will get through everything together. So don't be afraid. Be courageous, be bold, come with ideas, speak up. No vous, c'est tout. There's no barriers between us. Let's go. We're going, and that's what I'm proud of. I'm really proud of that journey for my executives, for my team, and the output. The fact that you're sitting here with me today doing a podcast. Last year we couldn't have done this podcast, there's no way. But this year, here we are, we're doing it, and we said we wanted to do it, and we're here, so we have the ideas, we're beginning to execute better. And I think those are the results of really focusing on being much more empathetic as a leader.
So let me ask you, how do you inspire your team in order to achieve their goals? And I'm going to ask you the two questions at once so that we close that, and then you can ask me the last question again. So how do you motivate your team? How do you inspire and encourage your teams to achieve their goals? And what advice would you give to leaders who are looking to become more empathetic, or what advice would you give to leaders looking to improve their leadership style?
Souvent, on va effectivement sur comment motiver. Je dirais à tout dirigeant qui souhaite être un leader empathique de s'asseoir et d'identifier qu'est-ce que je fais qui démotive les gens. Et je pense qu'en partant de là, il verra ce qu'il faut justement éviter de faire. En évitant déjà de faire ça, il se corrige. Il améliore sa façon d'interagir avec les gens. Si c'est parce qu'il s'énerve, il va prendre l'engagement vis-à-vis de lui-même de se coacher pour arrêter de s'énerver. Alors pourquoi est-ce que en début d'entretien, j'ai parlé de nos fragilités? Tu l'as dit, tout part de nous, tout part de la tête. Lorsque nous sommes contents, les gens sont contents. Si nous sommes hargneux, si nous sommes énervés, les gens sont énervés. Et c'est pour cela que justement, parce que tout part de nous, aujourd'hui, il y a un développement de coacher les dirigeants. Donc, je suggère vraiment que tout dirigeant qui souhaite, en tout cas, embrasser le style de leadership empathique, commence à se poser la question de savoir qu'est-ce que je fais qui démotive les gens, d'identifier cela et de prendre l'engagement vis-à-vis de lui-même, de corriger cela. C'est déjà un premier pas pour mieux motiver les gens. Et puis je dirais aussi de se poser la question de savoir quel type de manager, lui, en tant que dirigeant, il souhaiterait avoir. Moi, Fabrice, puisque nous aussi, on a des dirigeants. Même si c'est en tant que MD, on a des DG Group, on a des chairman, ce sont nos dirigeants à nous. Quel type de style on aurait souhaité qu'ils aient avec nous? Je pense que en se posant cette question, on pourrait déjà trouver des éléments de dire, mais tiens, j'aimerais quelqu'un qui interagit peut-être mieux avec moi. J'aimerais peut-être un DG Group ou un chairman qui m'écoute. Même en conseil d'administration, parfois c'est dur. C'est pas le lieu, mais qui prête plus d'attention, même quand il y a des situations qui sont plus difficiles. Je me dis qu'en se posant cette question, c'est aussi une façon de se mettre à la place de l'autre. Et ça m'amène à un troisième point, c'est le dirigeant qui veut développer un style de leadership empathique doit apprendre à se mettre à la place de l'autre. Quand je veux interagir avec l'autre, je me mets à sa place. Ce que je veux dire, ce que je veux faire, comment je réagirais si les rôles étaient inversés? Si c'était moi qui subissais et l'autre qui recevait. je pense qu'en se posant ces 3 questions-là, donc, quels sont les éléments que je peux avoir dans ma façon de fonctionner, dans ma façon d'être, qui peuvent entraîner de la démotivation auprès de mes équipes? Quel type de manager j'aurais voulu avoir moi-même si j'étais en position d'être manager? Voilà. Et quand je veux agir, je me mets à la place de l'autre. Quand j'appelle un collaborateur et que je veux lui faire un recadrage, comment j'aurais aimé qu'on me fasse du recadrage pour que, en sortant du bureau de Uche ou de Fabrice ou du MD ou du dirigeant, même si c'est pas, je dise, ah ouais, j'ai compris. Ce qu'il a dit, c'est important. Je ne sors pas avec de la frustration, avec de la rancœur, en me disant, ah ouais, ben de toute façon, c'est le DG, bon, il a dit, je peux pas répliquer, mais je n'apprends pas. Je sors de là en me disant, il a fait preuve d'autorité. Que dis-je, d'autoritarisme? C'est le DG, il a dit, mais je n'ai rien appris. Je ne suis pas devenu une meilleure version de moi-même pour m'améliorer et performer. Et donc, comment moi si je me mets à la place de l'autre, comment je souhaiterais qu'on m'aborde pour que cet entretien de recadrage-là ne soit pas contre-productif, mais plutôt me permettre d'envisager une meilleure version de moi-même pour m'améliorer. Je pense que je le prends vraiment comme ça, de façon inverse, en avançant avec ces 3 étapes-là. Je pense que le leader, en tout cas le dirigeant qui veut développer un style de leadership empathique, trouvera la meilleure façon, ou en tout cas chacun dans son style, parce qu'on est tous différents. On peut être outil sur un leader type de type emphatique d'une façon donnée. Fabrice le sera d'une autre façon, puisque on a chacun nos qualités et nos défauts, mais en tenant de qui on est, on développera chacun un style de leader type empathique qui produit du résultat. Parce qu'à la fin de la journée, ce style de leader type doit pouvoir permettre de produire du résultat. Alors, je pense avoir répondu aux 2, parce que en disant comment je motive mon équipe, comment je motive les miens, ben c'est la dernière fois on a fait une team building et puis je leur ai dit donnez-moi un feedback sur l'année 2023 lorsqu'on a fait la présentation des chiffres de l'année 2023 et 3 qualités que vous voudriez que vous voir en moi, quel type de leader que vous souhaitez que je sois. Et ils ont fait des petits groupes et puis chacun d'eux a ressorti. Je le ressors pas là, mais m'a dit DG pour 2024, nous on souhaite vous voir DG de telle façon. Ils ont sorti, j'ai dit de sortir 5 traits qu'ils souhaiteraient davantage voir en moi. À moi maintenant de travailler sur ces traits-là pour mieux interagir avec eux et les motiver. Parce que, et je m'arrêterai là, l'objectif de ce que nous avons, de cette interview et de ce que nous faisons au quotidien, c'est d'engager les hommes. C'est ça. Le leadership le style de leadership que nous recherchons doit avoir un résultat, c'est engager les hommes. C'est permettre aux hommes de bouger, c'est permettre aux hommes de croire ensemble à une vision commune et d'adresser des objectifs communs. Et donc, je ne donnerai pas de recette. Je ne donnerai pas de recette. Chacun de nous doit trouver son style de leadership empathique. La seule chose que je peux dire, je propose une démarche. Posez-vous les questions. Qu'est-ce qui, dans votre façon de fonctionner en tant que leader, en tant que MD, démotive les gens? Parce que on va sur qu'est-ce que je fais pour faire je motive, mais trop souvent, on a des attitudes qui démotivent. Et deuxième, quel type de manager j'aurais voulu avoir moi pour être, pour donner le plein potentiel de qui je suis. Et puis, troisième, chaque fois, en interagissant avec les autres, se mettre à leur place. Je pense que On ne peut pas être plus empathique que ça. Travailler à se mettre à la place de l'autre. Et ça requiert, je l'avais dit quand on parlait des qualités, beaucoup d'humilité et beaucoup d'intérêt pour l'autre. Je pense que quand on fait ça, après, on n'a pas de recette clé. On trouve soi-même en fonction de ses qualités et peut-être de ses défauts, le style de leadership empathique qui permet de faire fonctionner son entreprise. Peut-être que je terminerai tout à l'heure en évoquant ton propre cas. Tu avais parlé de l'aspect culturel, un style direct nigérian, américain, pac, et que tu as dû t'ajuster. Et pour dire que le leader type empathique, il marche dans un contexte donné. Et c'est pour cela que j'ai pas voulu m'enfermer dans des recettes toutes faites. Un style de leader type empathique marchera à NCA et peut-être ne marchera pas à MTN.
I think it's a good point. You have to discover what your own style is. And the way that people do that is the feedback. You know, people have to have feedback. People have to, you have coaches that can work with you to develop your style. There are all kinds of ways in which you can discover what kind of leader you are. And you can also decide what kind of leader you want to be. And that's a journey, that's a very personal journey. It's a very individual journey.
Au niveau de MTN, j'étais venu avec un a priori, comme je l'ai dit, positif par rapport à la culture d'entreprise de MTN et tout, et comment les choses se font. Bon, avant de te reposer la question, j'ai bien compris aussi, et c'est indéniable que le type de culture d'entreprise qu'un leader veut est essentiel pour construire la manière dont l'entreprise doit fonctionner. Ouais, puisque ici tu es arrivé et tu as fait des constats et malgré qui tu es, avec tes côtés positifs et les côtés où que tu dois améliorer, tu as dit voilà, avec ton équipe, il faut qu'on bouge, il faut qu'on move, il faut qu'on puisse faire un pas pour se mettre à la dimension des objectifs qui sont les nôtres et des missions qui sont les nôtres. Donc, bon, en tout cas, moi, je le retiens comme point positif.
I think that if you're truly passionate about people and the vision of the company, I know it sounds very simple, it's not, but if you're truly passionate about the company's vision, so I always tell people, and I interview any manager or senior manager coming into the company. I interview all of them because it's important for me to understand whether your values and the values of the company are aligned. If you, and this is very important for leaders, that when you decide to join a business, that your values and that company's values are like this. Because if not, you can never be passionate about the company and you'll never be passionate about the people. So for me, it starts with that. Do you believe in the vision of this company? Are you aligned to the values? Yes. Then you will be passionate and you will be passionate about the people. And I think once you are passionate about the people and the vision, and you will be very clear about the how. This is my belief. I don't know, but this is what has worked for me in every company I've worked with. Anytime I've taken a job for money alone, it has never worked. Never, because I haven't taken the job because I believe in the vision or I believe in its, I've just taken it because I want to get paid. It has never worked. You have to take, in my opinion, and I can say that now maybe, but in my opinion, if you really want to be a great leader, it really starts with you having true belief in where the business is going, because that means you'll be passionate about delivering the objectives which means you'll be passionate about its people. And that allows you to create a great culture. If you're not passionate, if you're just there because they're paying you a lot of money, you don't care. Why would you care about the culture? All you're caring about is, how do I make sure I keep making money from this company? You're not going to put yourself into the business. So the recipe for me is passion. Passion is about the vision, passion about its people, making sure that the culture is right. And for me, the culture is right when everyone has a voice. Everyone has a voice. The minute people feel empowered, they have a voice, they can make a contribution, people will work. The minute people feel afraid and they can't contribute, they don't have a voice, people hide things, they don't want to work, they won't say anything, they will do the bare minimum, which means nothing gets done. So it's about making sure people are empowered, people can speak up, people are free to innovate, to give ideas, to challenge, and then leave them alone.
De toutes les façons, je pense que ta vision de l'entreprise et de comment est-ce que on porte les enjeux du business avec les équipes produit du résultat. Voilà. Donc, à défaut de dire que c'est la vision parfaite, puisqu'il n'y a pas de perfection, la perfection n'est pas de ce monde, au moins, on voit au moins au résultat que on est dans la bonne direction. Voilà. Parce que tu as dit quelque chose d'important, et que je retiens, lorsque les gens sont heureux, lorsque les gens se sentent appartenir et contribuer, ça produit du résultat. Ouais. Voilà, donc on peut aisément associer la performance, n'est-ce pas, à l'instauration d'une culture managériale axée sur l'empathie, axée sur l'intérêt qu'on porte aux hommes qui, au quotidien, mènent le business et font que le business grandit et continue d'évoluer. Et puis, moi, j'aimerais bien terminer en disant que de tout ce qu'on a dit, parce que le rôle, pour moi, et tu l'as dit aussi, du dirigeant est central. Je ferai peut-être référence à la religion pour dire que le Christ qui dit que si vous voulez être le plus grand, soyez le serviteur de tous. Et le DG, un DG empathique, c'est le DG qui est le serviteur de ses équipes. Voilà, je pense que c'est un parallèle qui m'est venu là. J'avais pas pensé à ça, mais en t'écoutant nos échanges, en résumant, c'est vraiment le DG qui est au service de tous, qui permet à tous de trouver, à chacun et à tous de trouver sa place. Et donc, en réalité, qui est le serviteur. En tout cas, merci beaucoup. Mais Uche, c'est moi qui te remercie. J'ai été enchanté de faire cet entretien. En tout cas, j'ai été enchanté. Et je partagerai en off avec toi un certain nombre de choses que j'ai retenues. Et que j'ai bien l'intention de partager avec mon comité de direction, avec mes équipes. Moi, je suis un peu boîte à idées. Il y a plein d'idées qu'il y a dans ma tête là.
Maurice, thank you. We're actually so happy that you were our first podcast guest, because you were the first to take the CEO of the Day thing viral. So, we're so happy that you were the first. And what a great conversation. I was worried about the French English thing, but it was perfect. Like we had a perfect conversation. So thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your own journey and your thoughts around empathetic leaders. I can honestly say, obviously I work with you at CMP, and just seeing the work that you do, how you dealt with CEO of the Day, and the conversation today, that you're truly, truly an empathetic leader, and we thank you for it. Merci beaucoup.
Merci Uche, merci à toi et à toute ton équipe. Et bon vent à MTN.
Pour ne rien manquer de notre prochain numéro, suivez-nous sur LinkedIn, YouTube et la Yellow Radio. Live Yellow, nos valeurs, notre identité.